Hey guys, it's Scott. Welcome to Spin Magazine's Lip Service. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our Substack. There's a lot of things there that are proprietary to only Substack. You'll get early access to the episodes and the videos and so much more. So if you haven't checked it out, go to Lip Service on Substack. Check it out. Our next guest is Jakob Nowell of Sublime and Jakobs Castle. I think you're going to really enjoy this interview. We get into everything from the legacy of his father to new music of Sublime to playing Coachella to his record deal on Epitaph Records with Jakobs Castle and so much more. Coming up in just a moment, Jakob Nowell of Sublime. Welcome back to Spin Magazine's Lip Service. I'm with Jakob Nowell of Sublime and Jakobs Castle. How are you, my brother?
That's right. I'm very good, man. I never had it so good.
We were talking about sweating out. We're in New York. It's the middle of summer. A lot of shows you do without your shirt on. I feel like we could have done this without your shirt, but that might be weird.
I can take it off right now. Should I?
You know what? If you feel like it, we might as well stick with the theme because I feel like that's something. I saw you perform on Fallon last night, shirtless. So I feel like let's stick with the theme. That could be good.
I feel like shirts are prohibitive.
And by the way, this is the first shirtless interview I've ever done.
Oh, first of many. I'm going to tell people what they saw here today. It's going to become the new standard. Man, shirts are like this societal, like we don't really need them when you think about it.
They're overrated.
They're overrated.
I see. I just ate some pizza. I'm probably not in as good a shape as you, so probably nobody wants to see me shirtless. But
in New York, I've been eating my fill here, man. It's so bad. I'm like, I'm going to be on the Tonight Show. I got to stay fit and lean. And I was like, nah, fuck that. I'm getting donuts. I'm eating, cheesesteaks. I'm getting pizza. Like, yeah, you got to.
We were just talking about doing a place that you loved in Long Beach, but you didn't go there, I'm assuming, right?
Not enough time on this trip, unfortunately. But when I am in Long Beach, New York, I always go to the Dough Hut.
Are there spots in New York besides there that you're always hitting up?
Yeah. There is a good spot in Queens, New York, but I can't remember the name of it right now.
You don't want to gatekeep it. We have to give it away, right?
Yeah, it's in Corona.
Okay. I've never been
district. There. You ought to go. You can get anything there.
That's cool. Well, Queens is actually a great spot for food, for sure. Well, it's been a huge
food,
year
yeah,
for
that
you.
too.
You think this is not for food?
No, food. I'm not quite an Epicurean, but I do enjoy my food. I think that's the best part about going to new places is that it seems like everywhere you go in the world, it's like you got to try this here, or you're in this part, or you're in this town. This is the famous thing you got to try. So
now, are you someone when you're on tour, do you explore cities, or do you just kind of stick on the tour bus? Because I've been on tour a lot. A lot of times I've been on tour. The rest of my bandmates would like sleep till 4 p.m. and I'd be out doing one of those like double-decker tour buses. Like
the tour bus is a new thing for me. In fact, I was just in my very first tour bus ever a couple days ago.
How's it feel?
As a whole new. It's interesting. I mean, you go in there and you're like, man, I've been inside of them before. I never traveled one for shows because it's this luxury thing. But I just started doing stuff with Sublime, and we had need for one because we played this festival called Levitate in Marshfield, Boston, and we had to come down here to New York for a bunch of stuff. And it was such, an interesting way that you get your bunk. I'm like in this little sensory deprivation pod.
Right.
And it's so cool, but you also lose a little element. Like I love my van that I travel with for Jakobs Castle. It's scrappy, it's broken down. I've put a lot of work into it. I've redone all the seats and the floor and put lights in it. And it's like her name's Vanessa.
That's the name of the van.
Vanessa. Yeah, she's a van. And she's my girl, and she's gotten us all across the country so many times. And there's windows in it, so you see everywhere you're going at all times of the night. And maybe you wake up at the Airbnb and you want to go take it out for a spin somewhere. You can just do that. With the bus, it's sort of like traveling in the spaceship.
Yeah, is
what it felt like, and it's luxurious and nice, but you almost lose an element of that. I just love being on tour. That's where I feel like most myself. Like, and the more grueling, the better. I love, not getting any sleep and sleeping on hardwood floors and, just trying to find food at 5 a.m. and going to Queens.
I never got the bedroom in the back of the tour bus. I was always on one of those little bunk beds. So I'm assuming you got the tour, the big bedroom in the back, right?
This one was probably more of like a crew bus.
Okay.
Isn't that right, D-Rock? Something like that? Yeah. So we were all it was like 12 bunks, and in the back it was just more like seating. So it wasn't one of the super crazy ones with the beds, but I see why people do it because the longest I've ever been on the road was 10 weeks this last January and February with G Love and Special Sauce.
Amazing.
It was so great. It was probably the best tour I've ever been on. And I can see if you're out there doing that constantly, you're going to want that luxury because it helps you get that, just to, be a little more rested and be able to get through the day. But for me, I love when you get to that mode in tour where you're just a zombie, you're just just going on autopilot, you're just animated only by your purpose for being there.
Well, it's been a massive year for you, right? I mean, this past year seems like a whirlwind for you, I would assume, from Coachella to having a top 20 single. You played on Fallon last night. You released your own record on Epitaph.
Yes.
What a crazy year for you, right?
It's been wild. I can't believe it's all happened in the span of a because Enter the Castle, and that tour, and Coachella, Fallon, new Sublime song.
Top 20 single.
Top 20,
which
and
is
we're
amazing.
pushing.
Incredible. How was Fallon last night?
Oh, man. It was awesome. They let you smoke in the green room there.
And they had no problem with you being shirtless, obviously.
No problem being shirtless. I smoked. He said, smoke as much as you like, Jay. We didn't really, no one said we could, but you can, and we did. I said the word booty hole on Jimmy Fallon, and they censored it.
Really?
Which I think
because
is
I
like,
watched it, I didn't hear that, but obviously I didn't hear it because they censored it.
it.
Yeah.
The lyric is "Put your hands together" because I'm in the studio, and now everyone in the studio is clapping with me.
I saw that. Yeah.
And then you repeat the refrain: "Put your hands together because I'm in your booty hole." And then
Right.
I point it right at Jimmy. I wasn't trying to talk and make the audience uncomfortable. I wanted to tell that to Jimmy, but and he was into it, totally.
Except they censored it.
Yeah, but a lot of people could still tell that's what I was mouthing. They thought I moved away from the mic. But I didn't. No, I didn't at all.
Now, do you get nervous for a show like that? Because obviously you've done so much, and this Coachella date was just a couple months ago, which is amazing because it's all happened for you in the span of a year. But for a show like Fallon, do you get super nervous? I know you called it phallic on your Instagram, but
Jimmy Phallus, dude.
or phallus. Or
Jimmy Phallic, you know?
Right. But did you? I assume you might be nervous because you probably haven't done a lot of live TV like that.
Never done any live TV like that. And of course, I was surprised about how little the nerves really were. When you're hanging out with the Sublime crew, we just get crazy, and my uncles are jumping up and down and yelling, like we're like moving stuff around, and like it's a fun time. But when you're seeing the show and it's taped, you're like, oh man, it's almost my time to go up. I'm gonna walk in front of there. But as soon as it starts, it's like jumping off of a pier, jumping off somewhere really high. You're like, the anticipation to do it is worse than once you finally take that leap. It was very surreal. It was like just like stepping on the stage in Coachella. I'm looking, I'm like, there's the guy, there's the audience, here's the camera, we're just live, we just gotta do it. And I blanked. I forgot everything. I just hoped that my muscle memory would take. I just hoped my spaceship knew which way to go.
In a way, I heard that you actually kind of wanted it to end because once you got like 8 songs through it, you're like, I have to make sure. Yeah, I have to make sure that I can finish this the right way, right?
Oh my God, what it really was, with Coach, it's just like I was like, oh my God, can this be over? That sounds horrible. No, it was really amazing getting to play Coachella, but stepping into a role like this is something I never really wanted to do. It's a necessary. I don't even want to say necessary evil. I mean, for me, the juice is bringing my family together and bringing all these amazing fans and their families together for something that they've wanted. And obviously it helps me and my goals, but to me, you only know your suffering's over when everybody else's is. Like I'm trying to do this, to benefit others. Because for me, it really is incredibly taxing. I wouldn't just do this because it was going to help out my career with Jakobs Castle. There'd be a million other smarter and safer and more enjoyable plays to do. Playing my father's music, while I've found it to become rewarding, anything's only rewarding if it's challenging, and this is very challenging stuff for me. And so I try to use the platform to raise awareness just to the stuff that I have experience with, like my own drug addiction and stuff. We have a foundation called the Nowell Family Foundation where we try to put on events and raise money and awareness for the opioid crisis in America, and we try to give basically scholarship packages to musicians that might not have the necessary means to get treatment for themselves. And so these aren't, the big time people with huge record deals. These are maybe the small time people that got screwed over by record deals or never quite made it or that sort of thing. And trying to just give any kind of help we can to people who've gone through something similar to what my family's gone through. Because I think people are sick and tired of losing our beloved musicians and family members to opioid addiction. It's tough out there.
It's tough. And your story is an incredible one. Your mom moved around a lot when you were younger, and there was a lot of chaos in your household from an early age. Tell me your story, because I think a lot of people
I've been
know
waiting
your
for
story.
someone to ask about that. My mom is so mad about that. She's like, Jacob, keep hearing all these interviews, keep telling us about we were all this crazy white trash, like insane upbringing. Stop saying that. And I'm like, well, it is how it was. She's like, yeah, but they don't need to know that. And I guess because I just say it because anybody in my position, you're going to get some level of imposter syndrome, and you're going to get some level of, getting crushed from the scrutiny. Like, God, everyone's going to think I'm just this fake Nepo kid who just gets put into this place when when Sublime really was never like that to begin with. Eric and Bud aren't, hosting the Oscars. You know what I mean? Like Sublime was like this hometown band. It seems huge to all these people, but the tragedy is that my father died before he could benefit from any of fame or all the stuff that it comes to that. And I'm not here to benefit in his absence. You know what I mean? I want to give, my family, Bud and Eric and the people we play with and everyone in our crew and team a chance to have an awesome time with the fruits of this thing. So for me, when I explain to people my backstory, it's sort of like to explain like, look, dude, I didn't grow up in a mansion, groomed for success, always been given opportunities. That being said, it was not horrible. Of course I had opportunities that other people didn't. Everybody's going to have pros and cons and legs up, and there's things there. But these are more along the lines of the guy who owned the local hardware store in Long Beach, shout out to Doug Billings, gave me a job there because Bud and Eric had worked there before. That's the kind, you know what I mean? Or like one of their old friends now works at a venue, could get us a gig there, that kind of thing. Sure, there was always people who wanted me to hop up and sing with Sublime, but that was a fucking terrifying prospect. I didn't want to achieve any notoriety or success in that way because there's always a party that wants to do it organically for yourself. But I had to set aside that sort of honestly selfish desire in a lot of ways because I wouldn't be doing this line of work if not for my father and his sacrifices. He truly has sacrificed himself so I could have a better life. Even though growing up, at times there was money that came in and then it was immediately out. There were times when a house was big and there was times that it was falling down. And all the while through, you have my mom and the man who raised my father, Kiki, I call him dad because he raised me and he's a very good man. But these are people who, all the men around in my life were all drug dealers, all the women were sex workers, and it was constant party mode. And this is just the actual truth. But that being said, I spent so long, sorry to talk so long-windedly, but I get passionate about this shit. I'd spent so long resenting all this stuff. Like, man, if only I had the shot of all these other kids who had these opportunities. If only I had what they had, and then I could have done more and maybe not been a drug addict and not wasted, all this early part of my youth. I think about it entirely oppositely now. I just had my birthday in San Diego.
That's
and I
right.
spent,
Happy birthday. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I spent most of the day after, the whole night with my parents, and we had the best time going through old magazines and hanging out and just sharing stories. I realized that those two people were doing the best that they could with what they had and what they were given to them from their families. And more than anything, I did have a loving household.
But there were times where you couldn't keep the lights on and it was rough and tumbled, so to speak.
Oh, man. I don't want to tell the story about robbing the Starbucks, but that's a really funny one.
Tell the story because we'd love to hear it. So.
He's shaking his head over it. Someone who... Oh, man, it's such a killer story. Yeah, it was a statute of limitations, right? Okay, this may or may not have happened.
Well, I don't know if you robbed the Starbucks.
This is the fictional story.
Right.
But he goes in, needed fucking money. So he goes into the Starbucks. He tells me the story second-handedly. And I remember he came home and he's putting all the cash on the table. And I was like, where does it come from? And he's like, well, it's from Starbucks. The stocks just went up. I was like, what? And later on, as though he was like, I just went in there. And I'm like, you had like a gun or something? He's like, no. And I'm like, a knife? He's like, no, son, that's armed robbery. That's a whole other charge you don't want. And I said, what'd you do? He's like, I went in and I said, give me all the fucking money in the motherfucking register. And the kid goes, ching.
As I would do.
Yeah, of course. Because it's like, but these are times that I look back on like, these are good people who taught me to live. I was never growing up thinking like, oh, I got to start a band or be this guy or the son of whoever, all these things or all this burden. Like, I sure was terrified because it's weird for a kid to grow up where there's adults partying and doing adult shit. Like it's uncomfortable. Like I want to play with my toys and fucking watch cartoons and shit. And it's just people doing lines off of titties in the bathroom and stuff. Like it's just a little bit crazy. But that being said, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
What was the music that your mom listened to growing up? Because I know you have a varied, wide array of musical tastes from reggae to punk to hip hop. And that's kind of what you can see in Jakobs Castle, obviously. But what were you listening to that you got really passionate about early on that made you want to do this?
Oh, man. Yeah, my mom was spinning everything, man. Like, she introduced me to all the reggae that I like. Johnny Osborne, Jacob Miller, Ika Mouse, actually, my dad, the man who raised me, he introduced me to Ika Mouse. We listened to that together, and that became one of my most favorite artists because I love artists in a genre where they get weird with the sound.
Yeah.
Where they're in their genre, but they are mixing around with it.
Like 100
Weird
Gex
ways.
and Beck and artists like that.
Those are some of my biggest influences. So my mom definitely, I think her greatest contribution, because whenever your parents show you stuff, usually as a little kid, you're like, oh, I don't like it. But it takes a while because then it starts to remind you of times in your youth. My mother, I can say, introduced me to David Bowie.
Amazing. It's the only artist you need to know.
And it was just like, I didn't get it first on the long trips or playing. And then I was like, Mom, what's that one song? It's like Fame or something like that. Fame. And I was like, oh, it just clicked and it hit after a while. And it's so soulful and it's so important to a teenage's experience. Like it's just all in there and all of his music. So, but growing up, when I started to branch out and try to discover music that I connected with personally, it was Gorillaz. Gorillaz was the first band that really, as a kid, became my thing. And then as you get later on into high school, you want like heavier music. So Tool was my favorite. Oh, Tool was in Queens of the Stone Age.
System of a Down, maybe?
System of a Down, totally, yeah. A band called The Sword, too, and Mastodon.
Oh, sure. And you can hear a little bit of that creeping up when you're singing some of the songs even now. Do you ever think about that? You're bringing all
dude,
those
it like
influences
haunts
in.
me. Yeah, my first band, I was always trying to channel that kind of vocal style. And sometimes I think it doesn't translate well to the Sublime stuff. I have to kind of unlearn a lot because Sublime's a lot more bluesy in the approach, and I never really was trained in that style of singing. So.
But I could hear some of that, even like the Maynards like influences coming in at the set you did for Coachella.
Thank you.
But tell me about the first time you picked up a guitar and really said to yourself, I think I'm gonna get into music. This is my thing.
My grandpa taught me to play when I was 12. So I'd spend all of the school year in San Diego, Pacific Beach. That's when things were this crazy, party lifestyle insanity that I felt like I didn't fit into. And then the summer times I go to my grandparents' house and they were much more straight-laced. These are the grandparents that raised my biological father. And they were still cool, living by the beach, California, old school couple and stuff. But it was also more straight-laced and square, and I didn't feel like I fit in with that either. So I felt constantly like I was on the outside of this thing, like I was this weird dude who didn't fit in. And remind me of the question again. I was going somewhere with this.
Just sort of, what made you pick up the guitar and say to yourself, I need to do this music? I'm assuming that the storytelling aspect of music also had a big part of that.
That's the big thing, man. One of those summers is when my grandpa brought out. Well, he always had a guitar in his study or whatever, and I'd always go up and fuck with it, and he'd be like, he'd get so mad that I touched it. He's like, if you're gonna keep touching it, you might as well learn how to play it. So he'd take me out on the porch, and on that porch, right there in the peninsula in Long Beach, California, looking out at the bay, is really where I owe it to my grandparents to give. They gave me the, tools to become an entertainer and a storyteller, and my parents in San Diego gave me the material to draw upon. I think that's a good way of putting it, actually. I'm glad to articulate that. Sitting on that porch, he would read me Joseph Campbell, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, just classic storytelling. We read all the classic mythology and stuff like that from many different cultures. And then eventually playing guitar. And it all kind of clicked sitting on that porch, I'd say.
What was Long Beach like growing up at that point? I think, was it the 562 or 714? I lived in LA. I was telling you before this for a long time, so I kind of remember those area codes, right?
562. It was wonderful, man. I remember sunny summers, doing junior lifeguards, going out on the beach. And it was such a weird, not to get too deep, but it was such a weird juxtaposition because I think a lot of people can relate with this if you had parents that were maybe like a little bit more non-traditional, is that I would find myself at maybe like a friend's house or with my grandparents and my cousins whose parents were like, squares. And there's like dinner time and there's brush your teeth time and they make food and they all sit together. And then it's like wake up at this and go to sleep and do these things. And I would feel resentful because I didn't have any of that at home. So I'd be like, this is insane. I'm not doing this. But part of me as a kid,
you had the opposite.
Yeah. Well, part of you as a kid, I think is kind of like, why don't? It makes, I think, a kid think subconsciously, does someone not care about me enough to provide for me this kind of structure, which I know now obviously isn't the case. Everybody has different forms of child rearing and showing affection. But I would always feel like, do this junior lifeguards. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like I have all this like schedule thing. And then it was back home, back to chaos, like latchkey, like show up when you want to show up.
Well, you mentioned, I think early on, because you had, the drug dealers at your house and sex workers. At like 12 years old, you started to experiment with drugs. And you mentioned your sobriety.
Oh, thank God I did too. I think everybody should experiment with drugs. Kids, Try drugs.
Well,
It's
eventually
important for you to-
you got sober, right? Because
Spin
obviously,
magazine. You can cut that out.
So talk to me about how at 12 years old you started experimenting with drugs and where that led you to.
Well, I think it's an important, but just 'cause I am a sober guy, but I'll never be anti-drug. And I'll tell you, even with the foundation and stuff, it's harm reduction is the name of the game. You know, human beings have this thing that makes us feel immediately different, very powerful, sometimes spiritual experiences. That is so important to people's development. At 12 years old, like I said, this dichotomy of life, like, oh, I don't fit in with the square society, but I don't fit in with these cool party people. I'm not either one of these things. Like, I'm some weird nerd, but I don't fit in with them either because I'm like not. And so once I found drugs, it finally felt like I had the people. It didn't matter if you were a jock or you were a skater or you were whatever you were. Oh, now we're the people who smoke weed, you know, in the bathroom at school. We're the people doing coke at my parents' house. You know, we're the people trimming weed plants until 3 a.m. You know, like these were the times when I finally felt like I had discovered and tapped into this identity that had been around for so long. And you start reading Timothy Leary and Terrence McKenna and Shulgin and all these, you know, drug talkers. And, you know, you get into Hunter S. Thompson and you don't absorb the message until your later 20s when you realize that, you know, when he was saying, you know, Timothy Leary selling, all these people believing they could get enlightenment for $3 a hit or whatever, you don't realize that, oh no, it was about how kind of the movement had failed, you know,
Right.
how there is a lot of good to find within experimentation for yourself, but ultimately there is a limit. You have to take what you learn and complete the hero's journey. You cross the threshold, you go into the magical world, and then you come back. And a lot of people get lost.
Did you ever think twice about it, given what you went through with your family, I would imagine?
Yes, but it was more the thinking like I have to know why they did it. Because there's always that, like, why would they choose this instead of the family?
Mm.
And I think that's a very classic mythological tale. You know, the father has gone out on the quest and never came back, and the son goes looking around. And this quest was very sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That was the quest. That was what I was curious about. Like, why would they do this? And it did. And to tell you the truth, that's why I can't be a hypocrite and ever say that it was a bad decision for me to try these things, because it led to you're either going to fucking die or get sober and get better. So
What made you get sober?
Pain. Pain. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's the problem, is that you spend too much time doing this stuff. It ruins your body.
Yeah.
And it ruins your emotional and mental state. And you get into a lot of pain. And when I got there, I knew it was time to, you know, well, I didn't know.
Right. So this is 8, 10
years.
years later, right? You had been partying for so many years and you woke up one morning and said, I'm in pain. This needs to stop.
More or less.
Yeah.
More or less. There was definitely a lot of different moments. And it's weird because everyone's moment's different. Some people get into, you know, their 7th drunken car crash and go like, it could have happened to anybody. Some people just wake up and be like, you know, I'm going to try to get clean. No two stories are exactly the same.
Was there a pivotal moment for you when you decided this is too much?
Yes and no. It never really felt like it was too much because you have affinity for it. I have affinity for alcohol and for drugs. My personality felt so, with all of that, you know, it felt like this was so me and it did so much for me. Like, why are you not working anymore? Like, why are you not, you know, what had changed? And it was so hard to let that go. But I got to a point where if I stopped drinking alcohol, I'd have seizures, delirium tremens and stuff. And during a blackout, I had reached out to somebody and they helped me get into treatment. And so that's what I want to try to do now, is help people get treatment.
And you're how old at this point when that happened? Were you
21.
21, okay. Because at 17, you formed the band Law. So obviously you had been experimenting with drugs all that whole time. And you're playing bass, you're singing. A lot of people don't know that you slugged it out in the clubs for about 10 or 11 years. And they probably see you on stage now at Coachella.
They just assume it just happened.
Yeah, like, here he is. But
oh yeah, and they probably look at me and they're like, oh, you know, he's probably like this younger kid. He's his first time doing this stuff. Like, no, dude, I'm 29. Like, I am an adult. I've done this stuff, and I preferred, you know, slugging it out. Like I said, I love the grueling touring. I love trying to sell out and get tickets in through the door and stuff, and trying to ruthlessly promote your stuff. All of the I don't even know what you call it, Fallon and Coachella and the people and like parties, and people treat you differently, come to you on the street. All that stuff is nice, but it's a trip. You know, I am not interested in that kind of notoriety. I want to meet the real people in my local scene in Southern California and continue expanding upon that. There is so much amazing local music that is happening right now.
I love what your manager said you after Coachella. He's like, Jakob, no new friends after this, I believe.
Oh, you did your read? Wow, when did I say that?
I mean, you said, I heard that, right?
Yeah, that's what he told me.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah. That's cool. Did you tell him that before we started?
Because ultimately, you're right? Everybody comes along when you're...
It's insane.
Right. It's like
it's
you're doing
so
Coachella,
crazy.
you're doing Fallon, you have a top 20 single.
People who would have never given me a chance or a shot before.
Right. Where were they then, right? It's always the case there. But talk to me about 17 forming the band Law and slugging out for many years and sleeping on floors and what that was like early on for you.
Man, those guys are a bunch of assholes. No, I'm kidding. Only one of them is actually. Nick and Logan are good. Those are good dudes.
Because you would book
those guys.
tours and like the promoters would disappear.
Oh my God. Yeah, you heard about that too? Oh my God. Where's my phone? I got to show you this picture. Yeah, because I used to tour manage for some of the runs that we do, and I would make like these funny day sheets, and I would like in Photoshop put these funny pictures. And we had this promoter. This is JP got us this tour in Colorado, a bunch of Colorado dates, right? And the promoter was Miles High Chris was his name, and I don't know where. I hope you're out there, Miles High Chris. I love you, man. I'm sorry it didn't work out. But he set up these shows and then he just ghosted us by the time we're out there. There were some venues that didn't even know we were playing. We had to just go in and they're like, I guess you could play a show here tonight. Like, you know, and some guys were really hooking us up like, man, I loved your set. You know, here's $200. We're like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then he had, Miles High Chris had sent stuff to Rass's wife and explaining the situation, and he's like, I've been sleeping in this tent and pooping in plastic bags, and I got my phone hooked up to a generator outside the back of a Starbucks and stuff. And so when I made this day sheet with all the Photoshop, it was like a picture of him in a tent poking his head out and stuff, and it had all of our, like, it had the itinerary.
I've done tours before where I've got to venues and like, you're booked before the club opens. You know, the club opens at 9, you're going on stage at 8. I'm like, why would you, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
We just drove from New York to Chicago, so I know the feeling for sure. But this, like I mentioned, it's a big year for you. Jakobs Castle, Epitaph Records, such a great label to be on, an incredible label, and an amazing amount of history with that label. Were you a fan of that label before?
Totally, dude. Yeah. That's one of those legendary independent labels, man. Like, it's felt really good to be. In fact, I in conjunction with an artist that I like, I designed the front cover for my first record for Jakobs Castle's Enter the Castle, and I put the Epitaph logo on it. And I remember them asking me, like, are you sure this is going to be the art forever? You want to put the Epitaph logo on there? I was like, yes, dude, yes.
So you manifested this even before it happened?
Yeah. No, this was after. This was when I was designing it for the thing. But it was just one of those things where, like, you know, usually it doesn't need to be on the actual art itself, but it just made sense to me, you know?
Yeah. And how'd you get the record deal? How'd that all come about?
Uncle Miguel. Michael, yeah, he sent it into Brett, a couple songs that I had, and really I owe it to Chris Foytel. He used to work there. I did A&R at Epitaph, and he believed in me.
Did he come see the band? Did he come see you solo? He did,
yes,
and that was it. After that,
he believed in the project and the potential, and he set me up with a bunch of different writing sessions and producers, and finally it all clicked when I met John Joseph at the Harbor Martyr Studio, which I helped to name, in fact. And now that is where we that's where we plan our war strategies. Awesome. And we devise our evil spells to cast on the world. And we're just messing around with weird, you know, Southern California alternative sounds and getting our friends in there and trying to bring it all together. And that's what I see as Skunk Records today. You know, that's what Skunk is to me, is this local scene of people that we're working with and the sound that we're creating. Just Long Beach, San Pedro, that bridge, Vincent Thomas, you know?
You got to work with the amazing Tim Armstrong, who we love from Rancid.
Oh, dude, Tim's the best, man.
Did you click with him right away? Was it instant chemistry?
Dude, he's one of those guys who treats you like you're his long-lost nephew.
Yeah.
You know, just big hugs.
Yeah.
He's so nice. You do a take. He's like, that was awesome. I do this take. I'm doing vocals, and I come back into the control room, and I'm like, what do you think? The vocals good? Should I do harmonies now? He's like, yeah, brother. I'm going to take a nap. He leans back, and he just closes his eyes and takes a nap. And I look over at TJ, his engineer, and I'm just like, was everybody's like, yeah, it's 3 p.m. Tim's taking a nap. And I was like, do we do we keep going? Should I do guitar? And he's like, he's just the coolest guy. He just,
He worked on one of my favorite records, the Distillers record, which I still love. I think it's one of the best records of all time.
I don't know if I've heard it. What record?
The Distillers is Brody Dale, who sings.
Okay.
Actually, they were married, I think, for a while.
Cool.
Great record, probably the best punk record of all time.
Ooh, that's high praise.
It's high
especially
praise
from you.
for sure.
Fuck yeah.
But tell me about touring with Jakobs Castle, because obviously, it's way different than when you're touring with Sublime. Down and dirty, right? You're touring in a van, as you said. Vanessa is the name of the band.
Vanessa, I love Vanessa.
So how is it like? I mean, you're going from doing things like Coachella and Fallon to being on your own and playing. Sometimes you have it's yourself at a computer, or is it yourself and a few other guys in Jakobs Castle?
Yeah,
depending on the gig, right?
Depending on the gig, I tell people it's like a 1 to 4 piece. I like using tracks, but using them in like a messy, techno punk way.
Yeah.
It's just you're just plugging in wires and watching bolts fly and like hoping it all shapes up. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it's phoning it in and it's easier." It's like, no, you haven't set it up like I set it up.
Right.
It's a bitch and a half. And I have my computer on top of this big machine with TV screens and stuff. And he's the secret member of the band. He's Castlebot 9000. He's our in-house DJ.
Sometimes it's just you and him.
Sometimes me and Castlebot. Yeah. But George, D'Artagnan, the Hog Hunter himself, he is my drummer. Zane Vandervoort from... I almost said Sitting on Stage. He does play in Sitting on Stage. Strange Case is his band. He's my guitar player right now. And there's my boys. Wild Cherry, Jared Orr's sitting over there. He drives the fucking bus for us. He's our clerical. And that is the best, dude. I remember recently we had a show up in Sacramento. And it was the first time in my life, like, if you sell like a certain amount of tickets, they pay you more. Like if you sell the place out, it was the first time we did it.
Amazing.
And it just meant it was better. It was after Coachella, and it meant more to me than the Coachella set. There's all these people, and they're just singing the words to the songs, and like, there's nothing quite like that, because I pour me into that music for sure, and I want it to reach other people that have had those sort of like misfit feelings, the I don't fit in kind of feelings, and I saw it there that night, and it kind of made it all make sense.
Interesting enough, you actually prefer touring in the van, with Jakobs Castle versus something like Coachella when you're doing the big venues, or you love both, I guess?
Sublime's like, Sublime's the home country, that's the kingdom, but Jakobs Castle is like the outpost. We're the expeditionary force. We're the scrappy, cavalry that rides in and does the guerrilla warfare and then gets out real quick,
Yeah.
It's all part of the same thing, this big thing that I'm building. It's not mutually exclusive. That's what I realized. I spent so much time running from it, and to over embrace it would be weird too, but I have to both do it and honor the past, but reject it at the same time and do things my own way. It's all this weird alchemy process of trying to merge all these disparate influences and trying to make it authentic and genuine, and so people can see themselves shine through in what I'm doing. I'm not interested in my dreams coming true. I'm interested in making the dreams come true for the people that I work with and seeing their happiness when the success of everything that we're doing comes to fruition. So,
talk to me. You seem fairly spiritual. So talk to me about leading up to forming with Sublime.
Well, I'm not much one to believe in the paranormal, the supernatural, or the extra real, but I've seen something a bit as strange as seen it in those other places. So,
but the Phoenix Theater and how that all came about, and you going to the Phoenix Theater, which is the last gig that your dad had played with the band.
Yeah, man.
That's kind of what led to all this and Sublime.
Yeah. That was a weird experience. I always go over there and do like a little, pilgrimage to the final resting place of my father's music and his career, and it's solemn. To me, it's like walking into a cathedral. It's very trippy there. I'd love to do more stuff at the Phoenix Theater. And we met the guys there at that time, and they were really stoked about it. And it's just surreal, I think I've never really believed in ghosts. Sometimes people ask me, like, do you feel your father's spirit entering your body? Sounds creepy.
Yeah.
When's he entering my body? Like when I'm masturbating? Like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Look away, Dad.
Yeah.
Or is it only when I'm on stage? I don't know. It's just, and I've lived in spooky houses where there's shit flying off walls and doors slamming, and I still don't. I'm like, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. However, I think that when you put and spend so much of your time in life putting your personality and yourself into something, there are traces left over of you. Maybe not in a metaphysical, spiritual sense, but just you can hear it. It's a realistic thing. So I think when you're around places like that, humans pick up on a weird way, and we make those manifestations ourselves.
So you walk into this theater, and you walk around the theater, and what happens?
Well, there's kids smoking weed and taking mushrooms and finger blasting each other, and I'm like, get the hell out of here. This is supposed to be a sacred space. Stop it. They're skating and, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then I go up on the stage, and then I hear all this clapping coming from these double doors. So I go over and I open it, and there's a meeting happening in there. I'm a sober guy. I go to meetings and stuff. And I go in there, and, you know, I never really get into my story like that, but I was just having like, this is such a crazy moment. Here's my dad's like signature on the wall, and like the story here and how he passed away. And there's all these young alternative kids here trying to help themselves. It just made everything click. I realized that. And I hate, like, because I don't want to sound like one of those weirdo, you know, psychobabble kind of dudes. I'm trippy enough as it is in the way that I talk. But it's like, if you were to take it like that, if this were a story, it seems like I'm resisting this thing. I come here, I feel this connection with my dad, and he's saying, if you do this, here's the people.
Yeah.
All these cool alternative cats just trying to get sober. And I realized that through me doing this, even if it's difficult and strange and challenging and emotionally weird, it is helpful to people in a lot of ways. And it allows me to get to, you know, for me, the goal is not playing Coachella, playing the Tonight Show, or trying to get a Grammy or getting a top song. That all stuff is a platform to get to the next place where you can actually be of service, be of cervix to other people. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it all clicked during that day there. That was a really trippy moment for me.
I recently lost my dad, and people say they're always, it's okay.
Yeah.
And people always say they're always around you. So I feel like there is something, things do happen for a reason in a sense. So there's probably a reason why you walked into that theater. And then obviously the HR benefit happened. So talk to me about leading up to that. And
that's what made me say yes to doing it.
Yeah. So the HR benefit was obviously HR from the Bad Brains. Had you known him? Were you friendly with him?
No, but I've met him several times.
So you get a call, and somebody says, "Hey, do you want to play with the other guys in the group?" And
Eric wanted to do it. He thought it'd be cool if we all got together and did it. And he wasn't doing stuff with Sublime with Rome anymore, so we thought we'd get them together. And then I was like, "Fuck, you know, what if we get, you know, the, you know, guys from back in the day, like people who they grew up with in their hometown. We got DJ Product spinning. You know, he grew up right down the street, and Trey Pangborn from Falling Idols. It just makes so much sense. Seeing them all hang out, and they share stories, and they remember the people being around, and like these are guys who grew up together. Like those guys are Sublime. The four of those dudes that I just mentioned, that's what Sublime is. I was just asked to do the gig. Like,
now, do you rehearse for a gig like that, or did you just do it?
Oh yeah, for sure. You got to rehearse. Probably not enough. I mean, it's always gonna be a tough thing because I want to do as good as I can, and I really do think I'm giving it my best up there. But I'm always worried because it could always be better, and I'm never going to be Bradley. You know, I'm never going to be and I don't want that. And I think that people should want that because I can't tell what people should want. And whatever anybody thinks of me is none of my fucking business. But I will say that I have to try to be authentic and genuine no matter what. We rehearse as much as we possibly can, as much as we can fit in. But this stuff is out of my comfort zone, frankly. Is not what I'm used to doing. And but I'm game for a challenge.
So you were hesitant initially to actually, you were thinking about maybe this isn't the right thing, or you thought,
I've thought that my entire life.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to do this.
Struggle just because filling the shoes of your dad.
It's insanely weird.
Right.
And maybe that's just me because now through doing this and stepping into this role, I've met other kids of, you know, successful musicians and stuff. And I thought I'd be meeting people who like had the exact same experience as me, but your experience is, everyone's mileage varies. Some people do grow up with going to the fancy Hollywood parties and going to dad's Malibu beach house. And some people get completely abandoned and kicked to the curb and are just surfing on couches. Like I realized that what my parents did was exactly what I needed, exactly what I needed to get to where I am today. And, but yeah, man, I never, for my experience, how I truly felt and still feel a lot to this day is that it is so uncomfortable stepping into another man's role.
Yeah.
It is not an easy thing to do. You have so much of people's desires, and of course say, well, just fuck it, you know, don't think about it, just be you. And I do that, but it's always gonna be there because
and the scrutiny, right, that you've had.
And
I
want to please people.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to do this to get to be in a big fucking tour bus, dude. Like, you know, I went to school for creative writing. Like I always thought like if I stopped doing music, I'd be a school teacher. Like this wasn't, I have, you know, a million ambitions and I enjoy entertaining and talking clearly, you know. For me, playing guitar, I'm not a good guitar player. I'm not the guitarist that my dad was. I'm never gonna be that, and I won't. And I'll try to get as good and as far across the finish line as I can. But all I can be is me, and hope that through my genuine portrayal of these songs that people will enjoy themselves at a live show. That's it.
So you get in the room with Bud and Eric, and initially, what were the first couple songs that you played?
Oh, I don't know, maybe like Wrong Way or Same in the End.
Did it feel good right away, or did you say to yourself, we got to work on this a little bit more?
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, I'll be honest with you. We'll pull the curtain back. No, it fucking sucked. It was horrible. Like it sounded great. It was a horrible experience for me playing it. I don't want people to know, not horrible. I would never disparage. Like, I'm so happy people enjoy it. I really am, man. But I would not be being myself if I didn't tell you. Like, I went in there and I'm having just a horrible panic attack. And I've gone through a lot of that. Like, I can withstand a lot of these, whatever's isms and stuff and all these different ailments people have, anxieties and depression. It's all part of the human experience, and I can withstand a lot. This was physically debilitating in a lot of ways. And I don't want to use that as a crutch, and I never will, because I'm going to push through and I'm going to fucking do this, and I'm going to do the job that I said I was going to do. But going in there, it's like, I want my uncles to accept me. I want to do a good enough job. I want to learn this stuff, but it's hard. It's difficult. And then, not to mention, the process of learning it, I have to listen to recordings of the dead family member that I wish could have been in my life for my entire life.
Yeah, it's got to be tough.
So you just lost your father. You probably think about it all the time.
Yeah, of course.
And it's nice when there's times when you're not thinking about it. I cannot have an hour of a day where I don't think about the fact that I don't have it. It's always every fan that comes up, every show that we play, every time I have to turn on a song and be like, I got to learn a song from the catalog that I don't know. Damn, and I'm just trying to learn it objectively. I'm like, what did Dad mean by that word? Or like, oh, whoa, there's this thing, and it leads me to this song that I call an uncle. Oh, he was influenced by this thing, and I go down. And it's cool getting to know him through that way, but it is also morbid and challenging, man.
But there are probably amazing things that you discover about your dad through those Easter eggs, right? Because you go down these rabbit holes.
Of course. And that part is really good. But yeah, and again, I don't want to give the impression like, that this is like, oh no, you're twisting my arm, I have to play Coachella and go on tour. But like, obviously there is very wonderful rewards to doing this, but I would have traded not having them to just living a life that was fulfilling with my own creative pursuits. But I realized in that moment that is selfish.
Yeah.
And everyone could be like, no, you can do your own thing. You don't owe anything to anybody. I don't believe that. I owe it to myself, my father, my family, and the fans to try to do the best job I can possibly do. And if you guys can find another singer and a guitar player you'd rather have in Sublime, I will put him in there. I promise you. I promise you.
Well, when you finally
until then, I think we're having a fun time doing it with me and the family,
For sure. And the Coachella set was amazing. So when you finally get a call to do something like Coachella, because you've been together, you did the HR benefit, was there a discussion leading up to that? And all of a sudden you get a call from Golden Voice and they say, hey, by the way, we saw
Paul's
the HR.
always been a big fan, and he was so stoked to have a bunch of classic. I mean, No Doubt was reforming in the same year there, so it made sense to have us all together there.
Had you met Gwen before?
Yeah, she was in my life as a kid.
Yeah.
She was friends with my dad. Yeah.
Was there a point where maybe you were going to do Saw Red with her? Or did you think about, did that come up at all?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. It could still happen.
I don't know if she got our letters. We sent the pigeons in, but I don't know if her, her bat handler might have not have been working that day.
So in terms of Coachella, how'd you feel about it? Did you feel like it was a great performance for the band? Obviously, we talked about the fact that you.
I always thought I could have done better. This was the first like real show of me playing with these two. It's like,
and is it weird going from those smaller clubs to a stage like your dad never even got to perform at a festival like that huge?
I performed festivals with Jakobs Castle and other bands. This was definitely on another tier from that. Yeah, it is pretty weird. It is pretty different. But it's necessary,
Yeah.
And seeing Eric and Bud have fun up there just meant so much to me, man. It really meant so much. And seeing how grateful that people in the audience were, I assume to be, older fans, classic fans, but no, it's the majority is young folks at all of these festivals we've been doing lately.
You probably see 3 generations there, I would imagine.
It'll be like, hey, I'm here here's my parents and here's my kids and here's our family. Yeah, it really is multi-generational, and that's what I realized is the beauty of everything I'm trying to do in my career, is the story that we are telling here, the story of my life and the lives of the people around me is a story about family and how you continue onwards through tragedies and generational trauma.
And you're getting to do amazing other festivals. No Values, that must have been amazing.
It was awesome.
Great punk bands.
And
Who do you really want to see at that festival that you hadn't seen before?
Turnstile.
Oh, man, great band.
Yeah, never seen them play live.
They're great.
Let's do a song, Turnstile. Come on.
Let's throw it out there. So let's talk about, obviously, the Jakobs Castle record just came out this year, and that's going great. You have a top 20 single. I mean, are you going to tour a lot more? Do you feel like you'll just do a handful of shows this year and next year?
Oh, no, nonstop.
Nonstop.
Full-time two bands, you know. Sublime's not really touring. We're just doing isolated, you know, quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Jakobs Castle's quantity. You know, I want just relentless as much as I can get out there. I don't feel comfortable. The only thing I like about being home is I have my cats, Creature and Fluffy, there with me.
Right.
Everything else can go out the fucking window.
Is it hard to
I
juggle
love being
both?
home. I enjoy all the restaurants there, and there's a lot of nice folks. And Long Beach is one of my favorite city on the planet.
Yeah.
But I need to be out there traveling. That's when I can feel the most comfortable in my skin. And if I could just make it to a point where I could get Creature and Fluffy to be comfortable in a vehicle,
You're good.
and they could enjoy it, then we would be gone.
Yeah. Is it hard juggling both bands?
Yeah. I'm very busy now.
So right now it's sort of like a festival of Sublime, and then you do a bunch of shows at Jakobs Castle. How are you dividing your time?
I mean, you know, how am I dividing my time again, D-Rock? I have to ask him. I have to open up a thing in my phone, and it tells me like where the bathroom is. It's not all that bad. I mean, it's the dream, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to have a life like this so badly when I was 21 and I got sober. I remember thinking I just wanted it so bad. Some abstract idea of success or making it or having your dream job. And it isn't like the cliche, oh, you know, it's not all cracked up to be. No, it is all it's cracked up to be. And there is unsuspected things you don't see, but it just simply is what it is, man. It's intense. It's a lot. You don't get a lot of sleep. And you're constantly, it's all about, it's you. Everybody talking. It's all about you. Tell us about you. You know what I mean? Like I tell people, it's like having the same conversation all throughout the day. Is when I go about I'll have a rare day off, and no matter where I go, I'll bump into somebody who's like, oh, I saw you here, you killed it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm always giving time of day every time.
Yeah, that's great.
Never shrug someone off. After every Sublime set, I jump into the audience, much to the chagrin of my team. They really don't like that. But I want people to have fun, you know, like I want to go knock down some walls and go jump into the ocean and stuff like that, like and have fun with all these people who are like, I love them for doing that stuff. And I hope festivals continue to hire us, even though how much does a riot cost a guy? You know, what do these big guarantees are for? It's not so we can fly in jets and stuff. You know,
there is a bunch of Sublime material that wasn't released, right? That you guys found in like a vault somewhere. I think the Sound Man had a bunch of material.
Can you guys throw me my telephone? There it is. Thanks.
At this point, we're sweating in here, but that's okay.
No. I like it.
We're all glistening, but we look great.
What's a sweat? I'm getting deep, dude. I'm getting deep. We're sweat lodge. Sorry, I might have to have you cut like half of this
sauna
stuff
in here, but it's okay.
Yeah, man. We are going through all sorts of, you know, what do you call it? New and unreleased, you know, just chopped up music and stuff like that. And the idea is to, you know, collaborate with other musicians and that sort of thing. You know, I have the studio where I do all my stuff at Harbor Martyrs in San Pedro. A lot of people won't get no breakfast tonight.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just some cool unreleased stuff. And I think I always hated it when like my favorite bands from like back in the day in like the 90s would come back with a new record, and it's never going to be.
Yeah.
So I thought the way to circumvent that is like, let's go find the stuff that was gems that didn't get released, and let's use that to collaborate with musicians in multiple different scenes.
Is that how the new single came about?
Yeah. You know, Stick Figure is the forerunner in that reggae scene, and now like I would like to do some of the people in the punk scene, like, you know, Turnstile, or 100 Gex, or you know, people both old and new.
Yeah. And
that highlights the alternative nature of Sublime and that collaborative unifying force that is extant in Southern California, man.
Sure. Do you have a favorite Sublime song that you perform, or is there one in the set that you still want to put in that you haven't done yet?
Amber.
So
Yeah.
that's next.
Yeah, that's next. Or What's My Age Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a biopic in the works, I think, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think would play your dad? Do you have any?
Timothy Chalamet, dude.
Really?
You seen him with the shaved head?
So that's actually been a conversation or not?
Not. I mean, you got to get Timothy, and he's in everything.
Yeah.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah, he's in every movie.
He's the lead son Al Gaib.
But this movie is like
I think he
couple
is.
years away. Would you say or not?
Yeah, it's I can't talk about it too much, but I think the script's solid. It should be interesting, and I don't know. Some biopics are pretty cringy, man. I hope we don't fumble it.
Yeah. So the guy that's writing it had written some other stuff before too, right?
Yeah, he's a good writer. Ozarks, right?
Ozarks.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that might be coming out 2026. We don't really know yet.
Yeah.
But Timothy Chalamet, if you're listening,
yeah,
we're
Tim,
looking
you want
for
to do
you.
it?
And talking about Coachella just a little bit, are there other bands that you saw there that you love seeing? I think there's a band called Clowncore.
Oh, they're the best, dude.
Yeah.
That was one of the best live sets I've ever seen, right up there with Tenacious D. One of the best live performances I've ever seen. Clowncore stole the show.
They're like Slipknot, pre-Slipknot or something.
Oh, I guess, yeah. They don't really, they're just like eclectic, like weird, abstract, nonsense, funny, but somehow still thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Some real late-night Adult Swim type shit.
That's cool.
Type beat.
So besides them, you have 100 Gex that you like. What other artists are you listening to right now? Newer artists?
That's it. Just 100 Gex and Clowncore.
That's it.
I've never, I don't know any other. Man, a lot of really rad bands. Baby Goyard is really cool, like cloud rap. Oh, I just discovered this really cool South African band. They're called Internet Girl. Bands with a girl in their name, Machine Girl, obviously, is so awesome. There's this band called The Beatles.
I heard of them. I think I heard 4 guys, maybe? Same haircut?
You heard of them. Magdalena Bay is awesome. Magdalena Bay is super, super rad. Man, I'm trying to think of some more stuff that I've really been spinning lately. It's all in there.
Well, there's a lot there for people to explore.
Yeah, I'm looking through all my like Spotify recents and stuff. But I just love eclectic, weird music. Or really, JPEG Mafia. Yeah, there we go.
Cool.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the music industry at this point in your life? Because you have a solo record out, obviously a band record, Jakobs Castle, then you're doing the stuff with Sublime. But do you have a certain view of the music industry at this point in your life? I know you love the stories behind all the artists and the business of music early on. I heard you mention that.
I mean, it's so multifaceted. I wouldn't say music as an industry is just one thing. There's different parts to it, pros and cons and good and bad. I think we must strive to create our own industry. We must break down the walls of the past and, cast aside all of the fucking liveries and the flags of the generations before and raise them up in new, grand, and fantastic ways. I think people are sick and tired of things that have become stale and plastic in the same paradigms. I think people crave that face-to-face monkey realism where you're experiencing something visceral and honest. And that's really what I want to provide. I'm doing my job right.
You're definitely doing it.
That's huge praise. Thank you, man.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about 2025 or the end of this year for Sublime, there'll be a few more festivals. Obviously, we spoke about a little bit more new music coming out.
Yeah.
So what do you think this next year holds in store for you, for the band?
Well,
and your own band, too.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, I would really like to do more.
I love that we're both sweating profusely now.
I love it, dude. This feels great.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for the paper towels. But
yeah, we're going to be doing more festivals for sure with Sublime. And also, like I said, trying to go and create what I think would be some really cool remixed, reimagined, unreleased songs and collaborations with other people. And then meanwhile, like I said, Jakobs Castle, the Expeditionary Force, records, more music, singles, more touring, more, branding and vibes and as much stuff as we can do. And the real cool thing with Jakobs Castle is we've been putting on these local shows called Locals Only with my buddy Ethan Salter. Go check out Salter, please. Go check out Noah Weiland. Go check out Turning Jane. Go check. There's so many I want to mention. All these awesome bands. If I didn't mention you guys, sorry. I love all these bands. Go check out Shuss. Go check out those boys. There's so many amazing bands we're working with. Just all these local people who are just these hungry, cool musicians, and it's eclectic. Like we put on these shows where each band is like a different genre, but there's like this similar throughput. And trying to get everybody into Harbor Martyr Studio and use these like interesting, weird sounds we've kind of discovered. That are very much inspired by a lot of those like internet sort of bedroom producery era stuff, but trying to make it real.
It's your own Long Beach Coachella.
That's what I'm saying, man. And just putting on these cool local shows, and we're doing a bunch of that this summer, and I would like to continue doing that next year. and just maximize and using all of the, you know, buzz and press from Sublime to just legitimize and fund and create what I see as like this next, you know, Skunk Records alternative, you know, music scene.
Is there another milestone that you haven't hit yet? Like, is there like a Lollapalooza you want to do? Is there another TV show that you haven't done yet? And
Rock in Rio's always been one that I fantasized about a lot when I was younger.
they love rock music there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But tell you the truth, no, not really. I mean, who doesn't want to win like a Grammy or something, right? You know, knock on wood, that could always happen. But for me, there's never, even the Coachella thing, there's not like, if anything, I'm happy I did it. The cherry has been popped. I remember the first week, it was like, this crowd's crazy. Second week, I was like, oh, this crowd's crazy. You know, like, it just sort of is what it is, and it becomes a job. Like,
did your mom come?
Probably.
You're not sure. She came the first weekend and not the second or something.
Yeah, that's right.
She's like, the second weekend's bad. I'm only going to the first weekend.
But you know, man, yeah, here's the next milestone for me. Like 500 people at the Alter Society Brewing Company upstairs in Long Beach, California, all having an amazing time and singing along the words to every single one of the bands that plays at that show.
I love that.
That's the next milestone for me. The next milestone is getting an album of one of my friends' bands charting.
Yeah.
You know, seeing these people having an amazing experience, people who were inspired by something that my family did, that I now get to have some small hand in helping out and helping to orchestrate. These are what fuels me, and that's what cures me of any kind of bad feelings or uncertainties or any of that stuff I talked about. It evaporates when I see the people I care about having a good time.
Noah Weiland's a great artist, so I love that you're supporting him. You guys are good friends too, right?
Yeah, he's like my little bro.
Yeah, that's cool.
He's my baby bro. Him and Ethan, man, we hang out. We're buddies. We have good times together. Go to strip club. Just kidding. Well, maybe.
Everything's just kidding.
Ethan wouldn't go.
Well, you're sober. I love the mental clarity that I get from Magic Mind. If you want to do a shot with me, I'm going to do a shot. We can do a little
man.
cheers.
What is it? What is
mental clarity? It's one of the best
There's nothing
things.
in here that gets you high, right?
Nothing at all. It's the best thing you can drink for mental clarity.
Let's drink 3 of them then.
Magic Mind. You can use the code LIPS if you want. It's definitely the best thing.
Right,
Cheers.
Who is this to, though?
It's to us,
to the future, to Skunk, to New York City, and to Long Beach, California.
Cheers. And use that code LIPS if you want to get these. They're great. Magic Mind, Mental Clarity. I love them. And we always do these really fun top 5 things at the end of the show. We're going to get into it. And first and foremost, your top 5 Sublime songs. Jacob.
It changes, definitely.
We'll start with number 5.
There's in no particular order.
Okay.
I would say
because people get really passionate about these online. So
Right Back is the first one that comes to mind. Now people are gonna think that's 5. No, whatever, it's 5 then. It could all be interchangeable.
Okay.
But definitely Right Back. And then we'll do STP. We will do Pool Shark. We will say then Greatest Hits and Amber.
Okay.
Yeah.
You took some of the ones that are a little bit more off left center in a way, right?
I guess so. Those are the ones that mean the most to me when I play them.
Yeah. Do you perform all those live?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Not Amber.
Not Amber.
Yeah, it'll come.
That's the one that come that we spoke about, right? And your top 5 SoCal rock bands of all time, Jacob. There's so many, so.
Well, Sublime's got to be on there.
Yeah. Well,
I'm biased, man.
We can put that in number 1.
Of course. Oh, no. I mean, I have to. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't hold the banner of my fucking people, man.
That is true. All right, so we know the number 1. Yeah. I'm not going to try that because I won't look as good shirtless doing that.
Try.
So
what do you think, D-Rock?
I'll just
getting there.
Stick with my shirt on, do what I'm doing over here. But number 2, Sublime being number 1, SoCal band of all time.
There's a lot of bands you'd think are from California, but ain't.
A lot of great punk bands.
The Beach Boys.
Number 2. Okay.
Aren't they from like Redondo Beach or something?
I'm pretty sure they are, yeah. If they were from Idaho, that'd be really weird.
Then yeah, the Beach Boys. Can you imagine like Brian Wilson? He's just like, the Beatles put out what song? Fuck. We could do that. No, we're going to do it better. And then
number 3.
God only knows what I'd be without you.
We're on number 3.
It's a good album.
It is. Great album. I don't want to influence you, so I don't want to throw any out there.
No, influence. Because my brain, the shot hasn't kicked in yet. I need a second one.
Think about all the great punk bands. Here you go, by the way. Think about the great punk bands.
Should I have a second one?
Yeah, I have a second one. It's all for mental clarity.
Let's go, dude. We're going to get so clear right now, dude.
It's all natural. It's great.
Oh, I can feel it working.
Yeah, I can feel it working too.
It hits the back of your nasal passageways and whew. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good
So I guess if we talk about number 3, 4, and 5, we can talk about some of the LA punk bands, right? Because there's a lot of those. I mean,
We're just talking Southern California.
There's No Doubt. I don't want to say No Doubt, but you know.
Of course, yeah. No Doubt's on there. Snoop Dogg. We're just gonna do all the hometown. Vince Staples. Let's go.
I said bands, but I guess we could throw Snoop Dogg in there. But
they are bands.
Yeah, 2 more we have.
I know. I'm thinking of one that. No, they're not from fucking California. Help me out, guys. Come on. Perro Bravo. Oh, the Ziggins. The Vandals.
Vandals.
And
Vandals are
Falling
great.
Idols. Oh, Rudimentary Peni. Oh, Minutemen. Finally. We got there. The Minutemen's number 1. There we go.
And are you a film guy? I know you read a ton. Are you a film guy?
I've seen films.
Okay. Do you have a top 5 films we can go over?
I do.
Starting with number 1 or number 5?
Okay.
Because these you can do in a particular order.
I have a whole thing with like, because when I went to school with creative art, TV writing and stuff, I love, I've always wanted to do that stuff. So I have this thing, there's certain TV shows and films that I call like bro writing. And I almost feel like guilty for saying that I like them.
Animal House or Caddyshack?
Like, have you ever seen like an episode of like Black Mirror and it's like, and then bro, the twist was, and that's the fucking, bro, write that down. Like it has this like Fight Club, which I love. But he's like, and bro, then turns out it was in his fucking head, bro. And you're like, no way. But when I watched it for the first time, I was like, no way. So
is Fight Club on that list?
No. I do love that movie. But my top 5 are pretty much a lot of bro movies. I love The Big Lebowski is my favorite movie.
Number 5.
That's number 1.
Number 1.
Oh, should I go?
We can start with number 1.
Big Lebowski's number 1. Number 2 is Pulp Fiction for me because I can put on Pulp Fiction at any time and just enjoy it. That's how I rank these movies is how frequently and effortlessly I can enjoy them. Next is The Princess Bride.
I wouldn't have picked that one for you.
Yeah, it's not a bro movie. Not a bro movie. Family movie,
yeah.
but just I could watch that endlessly.
Number 4.
Shrek 2, not 1.
Okay.
I'm kidding, not Shrek 2. I mean, yeah, I do like Shrek 2. Those are my top 3. 4 and 5 could really oscillate.
I think we did 4. We need 5.
I think Memento I could probably put on a lot.
Great film.
I feel like I need a cool movie. Annie Hall.
Yeah,
Annie Hall.
another great movie. One of my favorites growing up.
One of my favorite. Here we are in New York.
Yeah,
there we go.
here we are.
So those will be my 5.
Awesome. Are you a food guy? Are you a foodie?
I'm known to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a top 5 California late night restaurant that you go to?
Rigoberto's in San Diego, California. We would walk there after school.
Is that number 5 or number 1?
That's number 1.
Number 1.
See, in San Diego, every town's got its thing. Oh, you got to come here and try the pizza in New York. San Diego is a California burrito or the carne asada fries. You can't get them anywhere else in the world like how they do it in San Diego. It's a specific thing. And you got to go to a spot. A lot of people will argue with me that Rigo's isn't the best, but Rigoberto's was my first California burrito, and it's got a special. It's like Philly cheesesteaks, Jarrett. No matter what, it's a tortilla with meat and fries. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna enjoy it. But in California, somehow Rigoberto's was the one that I have affinity for.
Yeah. Number 2,
Mr. Frosty's in San Diego.
Oh yeah,
go to Mr. Frosty.
Yeah, that's a chain.
No, Mr. Frosty's is 1.
Oh, it's 1.
You think not Foster Freeze?
Okay.
Mr. Frosty is one guy. That's my boy, Mr. Frosty. He owns a joint. He always hooks us up. I'm going there since I was a little kid.
Actually, a guy named Mr. Frosty.
No, it's not his. Jack Frost is his name, obviously. And some more late night Southern California places.
Number 3. This could be LA too, or it could be Long Beach. Could be anywhere.
Oh yeah, the donut shop, Simone's Donuts in Long Beach. That's my favorite donut shop in town.
You're a donut guy, I see.
My favorite.
Yeah.
Donuts are my favorite, man. Ever since I was a little kid, I love donuts.
There's a great place in New York called Winsome Bakery. It's the best donut I've ever had in my life. So next time you come back, I'm going. You got to go. It's in this mochi donut that's off the charts.
Oh, very cool.
And I'm not a donut guy, but I definitely appreciate a good donut.
I'm an enthusiast.
Have you ever had Krispy Kreme donuts, like hot off the press? It's one of the best things you'll ever eat in your life.
Oh yeah,
it's
100%.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I almost don't even consider that like that's like candy. It's like it's its own thing,
Yeah. But we still have 4 and 5.
4 and 5.
Top 5 California late night restaurants.
McDonald's and Taco Bell. Oh yeah, Harbor House. You got to go to Harbor House. You're in California. That's 24-hour joint. Except no, I went to the one on Sunset and they were fucking closed at 2 a.m. It's supposed to be 24. I can't just say, oh yeah, In-N-Out. Shout out Lindsay. I love it, Lindsay. In-N-Out. Yeah, come to California for the In-N-Out for sure.
We don't have
Yeah.
In-N-Out in New York. I don't know why. They never brought it here.
It's a California brand, man.
Yeah. Well, they are in Texas, I think.
It's the most California thing, like the Sublime Sun and the In-N-Out logo. You just,
Anything else we didn't touch base on? I know you got the foundation. We talked a little bit about that. Anything else we didn't touch on? Because I felt like we covered a lot of ground.
I think we did.
And we're sweating profusely.
Be good to yourself. Listen to more Jakobs Castle. Do more bad things. And it's going to lead you to the path that you need to be on. Do as many bad things as you can. And
check out On Tour with
but
Sublime.
hurt no one.
Yeah.
Love yourself. Love your fellows around you. And this has been Jakob Nowell at your service.
Awesome, my
Step
brother.
into my orifice.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming on, Jacob. I really
Thanks so much for
appreciate it.
having me,
Thank
man.
you,
This is
brother.
a wonderful time.
Appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.